People often ask me, what do I think about the law of attraction? And I believe you must approach it in a very specific way if you want it to work for you. Keep watching, and I'm going to show you how. So the law of attraction, if you simplify it, says whatever you focus on, you can get more of. Focus on what you want and you'll get more of it. And that is actually true. Whatever you focus on, you move towards, which is why it is so important to focus on what you want and do not focus on what you don't want. After all, if you were having an injection in your arm and you look at it and think about it, it's more painful than if you read a message on your phone and take your attention elsewhere. So I absolutely believe, and science has proven, that when you focus on something, you go towards it. But the thing I think lets people down in the law of attraction is that it doesn't ever talk about application. It kind of says you want the best partner in the world, focus on it, think about it, imagine they're there and they will turn up. And I'm like, well, not really. If you never leave the couch, how are they going to turn up? You see, if I want a new home, I can think about the home I want, I can imagine, but I also know I've got to go and look at it. I've got to go onto websites and look at homes and then go and view that home. If I wanted a new job, I can think about the new job, imagine the new job, and believe I can manifest it, but I also need to apply for that new job, go for interviews, put myself out there. And if you want an amazing relationship, here is how the law of attraction works. It makes you think about what you want. It makes you believe that you are worth what you want. But it misses out something very important. You must actually go out there, put yourself in front of the kind of person you want to be with. So the first step is to think about what you really want, the kind of person you want, what qualities would they have. But then there's a second thing you must do. Okay, I've worked out what I want, but what kind of person does what I want? Maybe I'm going to have to do some work on myself. If I want a really fit person that's into working out and super healthy, I better at least become healthy and enjoy that too. If I want someone who is deeply intellectual, maybe I should start reading more intellectual books too. You don't have to change yourself, but you may have to do something, because women especially are very good at, this is what I want, and men too. I want this, that's what I want. But then you've got to think about, what does what you want? When you've done that, I know what I want, I know what that person wants back, I believe I am worthy of that person. Now you have to put yourself in front of those people. You have to go where they are. If you believe you're worthy of love, and then go to somewhere where the kind of person you want to be with is, you'll probably end up with that person. If you believe you're worthy of love and you don't put yourself in front of that person, it just won't work. And I know this. I've met so many women who go, yeah, I'm really ready for a great guy. What do you do in your spare time? I go to yoga, I go to a women's book club, and I hang out with my girlfriends. Well, that's lovely, but you've just said you want a great guy. You've got to leave the yoga room and go to the gym, go to the weight room, even if you don't want to do weights, because you've got to put yourself in front of the kind of guy you want to be with. So forget about yoga and leave the women's book club and find a book club where men are. And I find men do the same thing. What do you want? I want a really fit girl. Are there any in the weight room? No. Then go to yoga, go to Pilates, put yourself in front of the kind of person you want, while knowing with unshakable conviction, with absolute certainty, you are worth it. So the law of attraction is great at making you believe something. One of the things I noticed on law of attraction is someone who had cancer. And she was saying on there, I kept saying, thank you for my healing, thank you for my healing, thank you for my healing, believing I was already healed. And I think that's wonderful, but there is a second step. You need to read some books on what you can do to help your body fight cancer. You need to take certain supplements. There are so many things you can do: supplements, vitamins, lifestyle, meditation, taking all the parabens out of your products, not sleeping with your mobile phone under your pillow. So if you believe that you can heal yourself and add into that mix certain things that certainly help you heal yourself, you are more likely to heal yourself. And let's imagine you want the career of your dreams, or maybe you want to start your own business. And that's all good, and you can use the law of attraction to visualize the career of your dreams, to visualize someone funding your business, setting up your startup. And it's a great visualization. You can use vision boards, you can use meditation, you can use so many things to excite your imagination, to fire off those neurons that go, hey, I can do this, but you still have to take action. The best plan in the world may not work if you don't work too. You see, I had an idea to write a book, and I knew I was going to sit down and write a book, and I did sit down and write a book, but I had to also find an agent, speak to people. I was very lucky that as I was beginning to write my book, I went to a dinner party, sat next to someone, happened to be an agent, which was very useful. And then I started to tell one of my clients I was writing a book, and she said, you know, the best agent in town is one of your patients. I'm like, really? Oh yeah. So I contacted him. He came to my house. He ended up being my agent, but I also had to do work. I had to write that book. I had to have the confidence it was an amazing book. And agents will tell you, people go, oh, hey, I could do a Harry Potter. I've written a book, here it is. And they go, actually, no, it's not quite right. And the second thing with the law of attraction is you must be prepared to bounce back from rejection. Imagine Celine Dion submitted an audio cassette to a music company and was using law of attraction. When she called them, they went, actually, we didn't like it. And she said, that's not correct. You haven't listened to it. If you heard my voice, you would sign me. And then they went off and they found that cassette. They played it. She made history. The man who wrote Conversations with God was rejected by his publisher. He came back. I was rejected by a publisher. I was fired from a job I loved, presenting something on television, not because I wasn't good, but they just wanted a new face the next year. And you have to have more than the law of attraction. You have to have unshakable confidence. You have to have grit, determination, drive, and you must have the bounce back factor. You can reject me, you can fire me, you can overlook me, you can dump me, but I am coming back. And I don't doubt that the law of attraction will give you that, because you have this powerful belief, I'm attracting it, I'm attracting it, I'm attracting it. But if you have that powerful belief and someone says, no, you're not what I want at all, what happens then? What happens then is you go back and say, this is a delay, it's not a denial. Someone else will love what that person doesn't want. I will bounce back. But you have to have that determination to overcome rejection, and you must work. I see so many people who miss the point. They got a song, hey, I'm going to be a millionaire, I'm a millionaire, I'm a superstar, I'm a rock star, and they sing that song. But they don't do anything to make themselves become a millionaire or a rock star. They forget there are steps you must take, actions you must take, new things that you must learn. After all, if you want something new, you may have to learn something new. I was a therapist for years and I loved being a therapist, but I had to learn new things, SEO, search engine optimization. I had to learn the internet. I had to learn when I wrote books that you don't write what you want, you write what people want to read. And then you better research what other people are writing, what's selling, what title. After all, the Little Book of Calm, before it was renamed, didn't sell. It was in the shelves, nothing happened until they took it back, retitled it, and then it flew off the shelves. It's not enough to write. You have to understand what people are looking for. Who is your competition? What covers work? What titles work? And even if you write an amazing book, that's not enough. You now have to have the confidence to go out and do book talks, to write for magazines. When I wrote my first book, I actually found it quite easy once I got over the resistance of sitting in a chair alone for hours. And I didn't realize at the time that you also have to be able to give talks, give speeches, go to book signings, make every person feel interested. And now, in publishing, if you can't promote yourself, sell yourself, speak on camera, have something extra to offer, you may never be signed. And sure, you can self-publish, but even then, you still have to work. Wayne Dyer, who I adore, went on the road for 2 years, going to different radio stations just to get his book to sell. It was published. He got that far, but then he had to make it sell. So look at your law of attraction. What do you really, really, really want? Decide you are worth it. That is so important. It's one of the most, but not the most important step. Decide you're worth it, and then decide what you are going to do to get it. What are the steps you are going to take to make that law of attraction real? What are you going to do if you hit a roadblock and the first thing you hear is no? So remember, you must take the action. You must be committed. You must be disciplined. You must have belief and faith and a very strong work ethic too, because the best plan in the world may not work if you don't work with it. So if you want to get the very best from life and achieve all of your goals that will match your vision, watch my free masterclass in the link below. If you enjoyed that video, check out the next one right here. You can also click the link below right here for your free gift. The difference between success and failure is often nothing more than this. People who have success also have self-discipline.